Big Smoke's betrayal in Grand Theft Auto. San Andreas is one of the most shocking and heartbreaking moments in Rockstar's history. And it all begins with the death of CJ's mother, Beverly Johnson. While the game never explicitly shows Big Smoke ordering the hit, everything that follows points to him being deeply involved, directly or indirectly, in setting the events into motion. To understand why he did it, you have to look at who Big Smoke really was. A man torn between loyalty, greed, and fear of becoming irrelevant. When CJ returns to Los Santos at the start of the game, he comes home because his mother has been murdered in a drive-by shooting. The attack was meant for Sweet, not Beverly, and it was carried out by the C.R.A.S.H, Grove Street's biggest rivals. But this wasn't just random gang violence. It happened during a time when Grove Street was falling apart, and rival gangs were suddenly gaining power and territory, something that lines up suspiciously well with Big Smoke's later alliance with the C.R.A.S.H and corrupt cops. Before Beverly's death, the Grove Street families were already divided. Smoke wanted to expand into drug dealing, while Sweet refused, believing drugs would destroy the community. This disagreement created a fracture in the gang, and Smoke saw which way the wind was blowing. The C.R.A.S.H were growing. Tenpenny and the C.R.A.S.H unit were manipulating gangs behind the scenes, and Smoke realized he could either stay loyal and sink with Grove Street, or switch sides and rise with the new order. The killing of CJ's mother was likely the moment Smoke decided to commit to that betrayal. It removed the emotional anchor holding the Johnson family together, destabilized Sweet, and forced CJ, the only one who might have challenged Smoke's influence, to flee Los Santos. When CJ left for Liberty City, Grove Street was leaderless, vulnerable, and ripe for manipulation. It's not a stretch to think Smoke knew exactly what he was helping to set up. Even Tenpenny hints throughout the story that Smoke and Ryder were in on something long before CJ's return. Smoke's motivations weren't just about money, though greed played a big part. He wanted power, respect, and safety in a city where loyalty meant death. Aligning with Tenpenny and the C.R.A.S.H gave him all of that. He got protection from the law, control of the drug trade, and influence that Sweet's moral code would never allow him to have. In Smoke's mind, this wasn't betrayal. It was survival. As he later says to CJ, the money, the power, it's all the same thing. He convinced himself that doing business with the enemy was the only way to win in a corrupt system. But that choice came with a cost.
When Carl C.J. Johnson gets that phone call at the start of GTA San Andreas telling him his mom has been killed, it seems like a classic gang war tragedy. But the truth behind Beverly Johnson's death goes much deeper than a random drive-by. Her murder is tied to power struggles, betrayal, and manipulation that were reshaping Los Santos in the early 1990s. To understand why she was killed and who was responsible, we have to look at the state of Grove Street, its enemies, and the corrupt forces working in the background. Beverly Johnson wasn't involved in gang life. She was respected in the neighborhood for holding her family together through tough times. Her house was a kind of safe ground, a symbol of what Grove Street once stood for: community, loyalty, and family. That made her death even more shocking, because everyone knew that shooting at the Johnson house wasn't just a personal attack. It was a statement. Whoever did it wanted to shake Grove Street to its core. At the time, Grove Street families were in decline. Their unity was splintering, their influence was shrinking, and the C.R.A.S.H were rising fast. Crack cocaine was flooding Los Santos, and the C.R.A.S.H embraced it, gaining money and power quickly. Sweet, CJ's brother and the leader of Grove Street, refused to get involved in the crack trade. He saw it as something that would destroy their community from the inside. That moral stance made Grove Street look outdated and vulnerable, especially as rival gangs became wealthier and better armed. The drive-by that killed Beverly was officially carried out by the Ballas. Late at night, a purple car rolled down Grove Street and opened fire on the Johnson house. Their real target wasn't Beverly at all. It was Sweet. He'd been marked for death as part of a plan to weaken Grove Street leadership. But Sweet wasn't home. The Ballas fired anyway, either not knowing or not caring who was inside. Beverly was hit by the gunfire and died on the spot. From a street-level perspective, that's the end of the story. A rival gang tried to take out Grove Street's leader, missed, and killed his mother instead. But behind that attack were larger forces pulling strings. The corrupt C.R.A.S.H unit, led by Officer Frank Tenpenny, was deeply involved in the gang scene. Instead of fighting crime, Tenpenny and his men manipulated gangs to keep the city unstable. They profited off the drug trade, played rival groups against each other, and made sure no single gang got powerful enough to threaten their control. Tenpenny had connections with the Ballas and was using them to destabilize Grove Street. A strong, united Grove Street could push back against corruption and drug expansion. But a broken, emotionally shattered Grove Street was easy to control. Beverly's murder was a perfect catalyst for that chaos. It's also important to mention betrayal from within. Big Smoke and Ryder, two of CJ's oldest friends, were already drifting away from Grove Street ideals. Smoke, in particular, had secretly allied himself with Tenpenny and the Ballas. He saw that crack was the future and wanted to be on the winning side. By quietly supporting the Ballas' power grab and undermining Sweet's leadership, Smoke positioned himself to benefit when Grove Street inevitably crumbled. While he didn't personally pull the trigger that night, his cooperation with Tenpenny and the Ballas laid the groundwork for the attack to happen. He knew Grove Street would be hit eventually, and he did nothing to stop it. Beverly's death had immediate and devastating consequences. It fractured the Johnson family. CJ, racked with guilt over leaving Los Santos after Brian's death, came home to a broken neighborhood and a family consumed by anger. Sweet blamed CJ for abandoning them. The gang lost morale. And in the chaos, Tenpenny made his move. As soon as CJ landed back in town, Tenpenny and his partner framed him for a cop's murder, trapping him under their control. With Sweet focused on revenge and CJ forced to do Tenpenny's dirty work, Grove Street became easier to manipulate. The choice of target wasn't random. By going after Sweet but hitting Beverly, the attackers achieved something even more effective. They destroyed the Johnson family's sense of safety and stability. Everyone in the neighborhood saw that even someone like Beverly, who wasn't a gang member, could be killed. It sent a chilling message.